Welcome to the FNO InsurTech Podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsurTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world, welcome to another amazing.
There you go, good word.
I had to find the right word. It took me a minute. Amazing episode of FNO InsurTech with the man who can advise you on how to take care of your home before you ever have an insurance claim, Lee Boyd.
That's so true. That's so true.
Lee Boyd. And me, the guy who just kind of won't go away, Rob Beller.
Just always around.
There's always conversations going on like, when is he not going to be here anymore? I
think everyone's like, oh, good, you're still around.
I do not think so. But be that as it may, why is it, Lee Boyd, that you could open a business advising people how to be prepared should they ever have an insurance claim? Wouldn't you agree with that? You could be a consultant.
I think I could be a personal consultant to that. I have seen so many total losses in the homeowner space that I have some nuggets of wisdom on how to be prepared if the unfortunate situation occurs. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give it away yet.
We're property guys primarily. And so we've seen lots of property problems. Give me two examples of things that can help you if, God forbid, you ever had an insurance claim on your property.
Well, one is going to be take photos of high ticket receipts, high dollar receipts. Don't just save them in your file cabinet. Take your digital photo and keep it on your phone. Don't go delete it from your phone. The second is to take an inventory of your home on a yearly basis. And I go into that a little later, but you've got to take an inventory of your home. You have to know what contents you have because you don't always know. You don't always know.
Right. People think if I have a fire in my kitchen, well, I'm going to need a new stove and I'm going to need the kitchen's going to need to be rebuilt. But that's kind of just the beginning, isn't it, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, how many dishes? I mean, your clothes, your all, you name it. Just think of
tablecloths,
your children's Legos, your linens, your all of that. You need a nice inventory. And at the end of the podcast, I do recommend something. So stay tuned to the end of the podcast.
Yes, that's right. We're not going to tell you.
It's a teaser. Call it a teaser.
Here it is, the FNO InsurTech teaser of the week.
Teaser.
Good luck if you find it, because by the time it comes on, you'll probably be asleep.
Well, this gives you a reason to hang on. Gives you a reason to hang on.
And that's because FNO InsurTech is a known sleep aid.
You said that as our guest is listening right now, thinking,
I actually said that for my wife, because what I'm going to do is when this comes out, I'm going to make my wife listen to it.
Well, let me tell you.
Not the interview, but just this.
Yeah, let me tell you what happened. As I'm walking in to do this interview today, to do this podcast, I'm walking through and my wife is talking to a friend on speakerphone. And my wife says, oh, Lee has to go somewhere. He's doing a podcast. And everyone said, oh, a podcast. How interesting. That's really neat. What's it about? She goes, I don't know. I don't know. And I said, you don't know? She, I don't know, some insurance. I was like, insurance technology. And the friend was like, oh, well, how long, or how many episodes are there? She goes, I don't know. Almost 200. I said, no, Chris, it's almost 300. And the lady was like, well, how long has he been doing it? And she goes, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I said, almost 80 years. 80 years. So it just goes to show you that even our wives have not yet taken an active interest in our podcast.
That's right. In fact, if we wouldn't tell them that we did a podcast or that we have a podcast,
no idea.
Every once in a while, we'll get an email to us that says, "Hey, wow, we really enjoyed this," and I'll show it to my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, whatever."
She's like, "What? What is that?
She's
what
like, what's for dinner?
Is that spam?"
No, look at it. Does it have a link in it? That's what she'll say.
And then my wife told the friend, she goes, really, in a super small niche world that he lives in, that he works in, he's kind of a big deal, but it's a very small world, very, very small. I was like, it's not that small. It's not that tiny.
But we have good news for all of you listening. And that is our guest today is interesting and working on solving a very difficult and interesting problem.
I agree. We have Michael coming on with Adjusto to talk about the content space and how he's solving some problems that are out there for the insureds, for the adjusters, for all sorts of things. So he's using technology, AI first platform. Very excited to hear more from Michael. And Michael will be speaking at ITC. He's doing he'll be doing a fireside chat along with being on the stage for some of the startup competitions.
For 2 different startup competitions, for the State Farm startup competition and the Guidewire new company startup competition, which is an amazing validation. So if you want to know something that's really interesting that's happening in our field, here's our interview with Michael Balarezo, founder and CEO at Adjusto. Hey everybody, we are here with our special guest who just taught me how to say his name because I'm not good at that. And so we have, and I'm going to say it in the way that he encouraged me to do it. So this means no offense to anybody. Michael Balarezo. How'd I do?
I think you did great. That's a lot of Italian influence there.
Michael Balarezo, the co-founder and CEO of Adjusto, who is with us today on the podcast. Welcome to FNO InsurTech.
Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Sure.
Nice to see you
We're
guys.
excited to have you on.
Where are you,
you're a
Mike?
listener, right? You're a listener. You've heard us before.
I feel like I'm on a radio show long time, like first time, long time. I'm
Long-time listener,
calling
first-time caller.
from Superior, Colorado.
Superior, Colorado, which is where? Help us zero in on that.
It's like northwest of Denver, just outside of Boulder.
Okay.
Ooh, beautiful Boulder.
It must be a beautiful day today.
Actually, today, well, depends on what you consider beautiful. It is raining today, nonstop the whole day. So you kind of get the gray skies and the drizzle. But
I would take that.
300 days out of the year, it's sunny here.
Okay.
Just today,
That's cool.
not one of those days.
That's cool. My kids love Colorado, so good for you. It must be great up there. Well, listen, thank you for being on the podcast. And like Lee said, you're somebody who has a little bit of familiarity with our podcast. That puts you in a group of like 3 people. So congratulations.
Happy to be one of the few.
You are one of the few and not necessarily proud. But welcome to the podcast. Thrilled to have you. Tell us, let's start by having you share with us, what is Adjusto? Not that us adjusters can't kind of guess, but tell us what it is and what you guys do.
Right. As some people think it's like a magic trick, right? When we say the name Adjusto or like
or a magician.
That's
I'm
exactly
Adjusto.
it. It's like one of the Harry Potter like incantations. It is not. Maybe we'll have something like that in the app someday. But what we are is we're an AI native platform, and we provide accurate and automated valuations of personal property for insurance claims. And our goal is to make sure that we help adjusters and policyholders really navigate contents claims in a way that builds a strong partnership and rebuilds trust in the relationship.
Very interesting. So contents is your specific area.
That is our sole focus.
Cool.
And so tell us a little bit, what got you into caring about content? First off, how old is the company? How old is the company? And then give us a little bit of insight on the founding story of what got you into this.
Yeah, so the company's a little over a year old. We've been building the tooling over the past 9 or 10 months or so. We launched in May of this year, and the product was released in June. So the last 3 months, we've been out in the world sharing our story and then also working with clients. And so the origin story actually dates back to about 12, 13 years ago, after I decided to pursue software engineering and leave the adjusting world. And one of the things I thought would have been a really interesting problem to solve was this concept of like personal property inventory lists. Because everyone knows like personal property claims are adjusters' most favorite claims. Everyone loves working them. And so I thought to myself, well, as I kind of dive into the world of software engineering, there's this massive need and pain point I understand after working contents claims as an adjuster. Like maybe we could simplify this process for everyone. And I created a small little company. It was an LLC based in Oklahoma. I think the original name of it was called Uventory. I have it like, this is when like the word U was like in every single startup back then, right? Or even just the letter U. And the interesting thing I ran into was that this was a common problem. Surely we could create a better solution for this, but the technology just wasn't there back then. Like to create a solution that required everyone to still like manually type everything or write everything out by hand, there was just no other way to do it, right? And so I quickly ran into this problem, which is, okay, we have the idea, but there isn't a really elegant way to solve this at scale without putting people through a lot of pain. And so the idea just kind of sat there for 12 to 13 years. I left the adjusting world, became a software engineer, and worked in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco, in the advertising space, building automation solutions for some rather large advertisers in the world, and moved out to Colorado and found myself in Superior. Yeah. And 21, the Marshall Fire came through and took out 1,100 homes in my neighborhood. Wow. And it was devastating. That's a whole other story in itself, like evacuating, getting everyone out, like how we even found out about it.
That sounds harrowing. It sounds, I mean, that's enormous, right?
It is life-changing. Yeah. And navigating that loss put me right back in that position I was 12 years ago, which was, hey, I remember this was a problem and it still is a problem. Like I don't think the industry has really done enough work to kind of evolve with technology in the contents arena. I know that there's been some improvements, but man, I was working my contents claim and I thought, you know what? If I were an adjuster today, I'd expect the solution to do this and this and this. Yeah. Why don't we just make that happen? And today we can, with the advent of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. And so that was kind of like the big shift in technological advancement that helped me realize that there's a real opportunity here that we could really change the industry.
And so from there you went on to begin building this platform. Is that right? Is that the appropriate way to say it? It's a platform?
It is. It's a platform. And today there is interfaces for both policyholders and adjusters. And we are expanding its use cases across people who touch contents, right? So whether you're a TPA, whether you are an adjuster, independent adjusting firm, if you're in the mix, the platform has a place for you to interact with contents and valuation.
Obviously carriers as well.
100%.
Mm-hmm. And so you talked about the advancement in technology, data science, machine learning, visuals. Like, is that part of the platform? Is that part of it? Is it more than just I have a TV and I upload it? Help me understand what separates you and what you're doing out there.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so if we kind of think about how contents claims actually work, you have to prove your loss, right? So the onus is on the policyholder. There's no real way around that. You kind of just have to document it somehow. That process is burdensome. And then also as an adjuster, your job is to review the contents list. You have to apply depreciation. You have to categorize things appropriately. And there's a whole host of other things that you need to do to make sure that you can adjudicate the claim and bring the policyholder back to whole. Yeah. So we took an approach of building a platform from the ground up that was AI native, right? So I think this is the big differentiator in our stack is there's a lot of solutions in the space that are 10, 15 years old or so. And they have a very strong foundation in the tech layer of, let's say, addressing some of the more manual tasks. But now with the inflection of artificial intelligence, like bringing in AI to that tech stack is harder than building one with it from the ground up. And so we have injected artificial intelligence and machine learning throughout the end-to-end cycle. So everything from data collection for the policyholder all the way to working a contents claim with the adjuster. And the idea is that it's not just software for software's sake. It is software that makes the experience for both parties better. I don't think we've really thought about what the adjuster has to do to reconcile a claim and what that software experience looks like. So if we talk about like some of the features you were calling out, like AI and visuals and stuff, sure, on the front end of this equation, you have policyholders that need to document the loss. So we've built and incorporated certain AI models that can parse written text, CSV data, but then also visual data. So we make it easier for policyholders to really get that list started, even from a mobile phone. You can think about it like a self-inspection tool for policyholders, right? And adjusters have the same capability with our platform. And then as far as like working the claim itself, it's almost like the way to explain it is, wouldn't it feel great if you had like your mentor adjuster working alongside you, helping you resolve this contents claim and helping you point out all the things that you should be looking at that help resolve a claim? And contents are very tricky, right? It's very different than like a property damage claim. And like, how many of us really care like what size nail? Like I care because we're all adjusters and we understand. But I mean, like a typical policyholder isn't going to scrutinize like down to the level of like what size nail was used to hammer shingles on your roof. You just trust that they're using the right nails. But when you're working a contents claim, every single item in that claim that the policyholder submits like ties back to their personal identity. They took time to buy an item. It probably was something they researched. Maybe it has sentimental value. And so there's all these little nuances. And so instead of like, let's say, negotiating a roof repair, you're negotiating with like 1,000 different line items. And that is the difference. So we ended up building a lot of data science and machine learning into the system to provide that layer of assistance to adjusters as well.
I have a question for you about AI native. It's a term that we hear with more regularity, but we've never asked the simple question of, give us a quickie definition of that, and also why it is important.
So the way I would define it, this is not the Webster Dictionary version of the definition.
That's fine.
But it is building a platform or software with the intention of having artificial intelligence at the core that will allow it to then be a part of every other feature set, right? As a part of the software. And so that means that you also have to build in certain like modules, if you will, and API connectivity to allow for data to flow amongst different AI systems, right? And it's not just generative AI. Keep in mind, there's like machine learning pipelines that have to be built here. There's also some data science work and analysis that gets done to feed into these systems. And so it's a very purposeful decision to include artificial intelligence at the core of platform design.
And so I read in our show notes that it's a platform built basically by adjusters for adjusters. And so you talked a lot about how it would be good for the policyholders. How does this help adjusters in the field settle claims quicker?
It's a good question. And so when we built the tool, we interviewed lots of insurance like veterans, folks who have worked claims at various levels of their career for some of the top carriers, also some of the new digitally native carriers. And we needed to confirm a few assumptions that we had. And one of the assumptions that I had coming into this, which is it's not just speed that helps close a claim fast. That seems obvious. You want to close a claim fast, just accelerate the claims process, right? We bring in tooling. I think the challenge with that is, and you guys know this, is if you automate the wrong thing, you're just accelerating in the wrong direction, right? You can accelerate backwards. You can almost automate yourself backwards. And one of the challenging things today with contents claims is this exists today, and this didn't exist 15, 20 years ago, which is everyone has like one of these in their pockets. You have the world's information at your fingertips. And so it becomes very important to try to provide information to a policyholder, let's say, that aligns with their expectations. And so if that is true, the solution not only has to be fast, but it also needs to have trust building moments and trust building data that you can provide to the adjuster to get a policyholder to understand that you're on their side. So the way that we really help is we understand that it's not just speed, it's speed and accuracy that lead to trust. And if you can provide that sort of data in the platform to the adjuster in real time as they're working and navigating a claim, you then do a couple of things. One, you help educate the adjuster on what these trust building moments are, and then you can build rapport with the policyholder. Two is you can actually make every single contents claim personal, right? Mm-hmm. And I say that in a way that is more like personalized, right? Like it becomes a one-to-one conversation as opposed to, we did the work, here's a number, there you go. And you can now show policyholders what the true value of some of these items are. A lot of the feedback that we got from policyholders when we did our interviews, especially in our neighborhood, I had the benefit of being like within walking distance to several people who unfortunately lost their home, but were able to give us feedback on their current experiences with carriers. And one of the things that came up time and time again was just the level of transparency. Yeah. They're like, if they could just tell me how they got to this number, that's all I want to know. Right. And
tell us the truth. Yeah.
Just tell us. And why is it that the thing that I said I had is nowhere on this sheet, and you kind of replace it with something else? Like, and so the funny thing is, it's like, how do we just like break those barriers and make it very easy to have these transparent conversations and provide data to the adjusters where they feel like, yeah, I can justify this. This makes sense. If I have to raise my right hand, on the stand, because that's what adjusters are always worried about, right? How do I defend my decision here? So we provide that to them in a very fast, rapid, and transparent fashion.
And so you've been going at it for about a year now. How's it going? Are you doing any pilots? Are you getting out there? Are you trying anything out? Anybody working with you?
Yeah, insurance is a beast of an industry, right?
It is.
It is, but it's so rewarding. And so like I was actually speaking with one of our advisors about this and how just different insurance is from other verticals, right? And this is exactly why we spent so much time building our product over 9 to 10 months, right? Which is we understand you can't just launch something into the claims ecosystem and hope that it works. Right. You kind of have to understand like the language, the lingo. You have to know the process inside and out. You have to try it a few times, several times, and then prove it out over time. So we have pilots that are live right now across the ecosystem. So we have carriers, independent adjusting firms, content specialists using it on live claims, right? And we're getting feedback there. We've been able to build the trust where they understand that this is different. When they see the software, they understand this is something that we've always wanted, but no one's ever been able to crack. And we understand the value that it provides. And so really happy about that. And the partners that we're working with, they believe in us, but they also believe that this is the future of how we should manage contents claims.
I love that.
So you're working primarily and exclusively with claim departments or claim organizations?
Today, yes. Our primary offering today is claims organization focused.
And so I would think that depending on a few different factors, that carriers would play a super important role in the success of your company, right? Because they could call out Adjusto. We want you using Adjusto. on these claims. Is that what your hope is to get at the starting point of the whole thing, or is this a product that works well in addition to whatever system they're utilizing, i.e. Exact or whatnot?
That's a good question. So the way that we think about our solution is more of a solution for the industry, right? Like the way that we've built it is that even our competitors could use our tooling, right? And so they service carriers. So we can go direct to carriers and we can help them with their contents practice. We can work with TPAs or even partner up with some of the other incumbents in the space who are open to hearing our take and looking at our solution as the new way forward for contents valuation, right? So for us, we really think that, and this is kind of why I speak about it as this platform. It is software, but it does have the ability for us to expand into the broader ecosystem.
So one thing I read about your platform is that you've introduced a new system called FairMatch. What is FairMatch? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this was actually very core to the foundation of our company. Okay. And I think this is one of the things that is very different in how we see valuations. And so the name FairMatch, pretty self-explanatory. It provides the most fair match, right? It is an engine that we've built, and it's patent pending. It's an algorithm that uses a host of different models that we've tuned and trained specifically for contents. But I think the main differentiator is, and you have to forgive me on this, like I'll have to explain like this one thing, which is like a core to our philosophy about providing these matches. We think that there hasn't been a solution in the space that has been able to properly articulate that they provide a fair match. We say our solutions are fair. I've seen some solutions out there that say we provide fair valuations, but it's from the perspective of a single party. It is from the perspective of a claims organization. So we bring a proprietary set of data that we've collected from consumers, and we have consumer data that we use to also train our FairMatch engines. And so now we have both an adjuster trained system based off of adjusters heuristics, but then also from policyholder data that we've collected that then work together to find the most like, kind, and quality match item to what a policyholder would find reasonable and accept. And I think there's a very clear distinction there, right? Because if we want to close claims quickly, you want to stop the boxing match from happening.
Right. And isn't that like a big problem, inherent problem with contents? And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand it. They understand, content, so all the stuff that you have in your house, right? But when you stop and you think about all the stuff you have in your house, it's mind-boggling. So that LKQ thing that you just mentioned, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. Right?
It is a very hard problem, right? And so I think this is kind of the difference when we share our tooling. We're hell-bent on accuracy, right? We are always on the search to becoming more accurate and finding more fair valuations. And we use real-time data, which is very hard to build compute on top of, right? And so this is the other difference, because we understand the world that we live in today is very different than the world that a lot of these like HO3 policies were written on, like 80 or so years ago, which is you have the internet, you have tariffs that now can swing prices for things on a daily basis.
That's
you
true.
Also have like global pandemics that now happen that affect trade on a global scale. So it was very important to us that we didn't use, let's say, like any legacy like books of valuations, because that only gets you so far. And when people are checking your work, they're checking it on this. And that only tells you what's available today, right? And so that's one piece of the accuracy problem is keeping things live, right? And making sure that we can more accurately report that for policyholders.
Because really, I mean, a television set, right, is kind of the easy thing, right? You had a 65-inch Samsung whatever, and you get another one.
I see Lee smiling here. He's like, it's not that easy. It can get really complicated.
It's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead, Rob.
I've never worked a contents claim. I only know that it's this area in the claims world. You know, we're worried about structures and stuff like that, and putting a structure back together and rebuilding it, right? And contents just lives over there, and it goes into this black box, and some magic happens, and like you say, then the fighting begins, and and then eventually it settles. But it's like, I mean, what is a piece of art worth, or I mean, et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard.
In the eye of the beholder, am I right?
Yeah, I think so. These are the hard problems, right? And so I think this is kind of where, so we understand this. This is very difficult. And one of the things that we really focus on is providing the adjuster the right data to help them make the decision. Because at the end of the day, it's the adjuster that helps make the decision, right? And going back to the TV example, I mean, you could solve that like 10 different ways, probably more, right? You can,
right.
There will be an example where someone has one of those 46-inch projector TVs that was like 4 feet tall by like 3 feet wide, right? Or 3 feet deep and 6 feet wide or so. And it's like, well, at the time when they bought it, it was really expensive. But like if you try to buy one today, like you couldn't find one that's like, people would probably want to give it away, right? They'd probably want to get something else. And so like, how do you provide that information to the adjuster? And so what we do is we find like, kind, and quality, we find what's out there, and we provide them, and we'll flag it to them and say, hey, like you might want to double check this specific item. This looks like it'll probably raise an eyebrow from your policyholder, right? Before you just like pay this out, like focus on this thing, right? And then the adjuster gets to decide, and it's largely dependent on the policy and how the adjuster works the claim with the policyholder and what the carrier's policies are. But like sometimes it's as easy as we're just going to give them like a brand new TV, 65 inches, but then it's like, well, what are the features of that? Things get complicated. What's more important is how do we surface that information to the adjuster so they can make the right call faster?
And just to get back to another point that we touched on a minute ago, your product will work with other products. I mean, one of the things that happens in the claims world is we're starting to get clogged up with lots of solutions, lots of different tech. How have you dealt with that? I mean, if you're using, a Verisk product as your backbone product, you have to be able to talk with them.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And so we understand that partnerships are a core part of our strategy, right? Let's be real. There are some really big players in the space that provide exceptional software, and to expect a carrier to completely transition off of that is a multi-year endeavor if they're even willing to entertain it. There are massive amounts of costs there. So we wanted to remove as much of that friction as possible. And so there's a couple of avenues for us. So partnerships is one. We've integrated with Snapsheet already. So a lot of the digitally savvy carriers who use that platform can use us today. We also are part of the Guidewire Vanguards program, and we have had conversations with Verisk to be a part of their marketplace, right? And so
that's great.
We understand that integrating into the ecosystem is very important. It's not to say that you can't use our software without those platforms. You can. You can use it as a standalone system.
Sure.
And we can export data in a variety of different formats that allow you to bring it in as well, right? So if you're a carrier that has part of the Xactimate suite, but not the other half, maybe you don't have the content suite, you could use ours. No problem. We have our own reports, our own paper. If you have exact analysis, we will be partnering up with them to be a part of the marketplace to then export that data directly into that ecosystem.
That's wonderful. I agree. I think partnerships are where it's at. I mean, it's great that you're standalone, but also being able to partner and meet the carriers where they're at.
Are you finding an openness towards your product out there among partnerships, potential partners?
Yes, I think so. Some of the immediate feedback that we've received from like partners as in like tech vendors, but then also carriers, is that they've never seen anything quite like this, is like the feedback I keep getting, right? Like we've never seen anything like this. We've always wanted something like this, but no one's ever been able to kind of like put the pin on it, right?
That's great.
So we're building software people love, right? And we've gotten that feedback before, which has been great. Like we actually love this. And how do we begin to use this as a part of our content stack? So it is being welcomed across the partnership ecosystem, but I think it's also because we were very intentional about that, and we built the stack to be inclusive into the larger partnership ecosystem as well.
You know, here at Alacrity, Lee and I work for Alacrity. We have a president of our contents division, and you guys should, if you haven't already, you should have a conversation. I think you would find it beneficial.
Yeah, we'll love that. There's so much happening in content today.
No, it was your idea.
No, that's not me.
Yeah, I think maybe Rob, you said this earlier. Like it kind of gets overlooked because there's so many problems in the property space, damage, right? Content is kind of always thought about as like the secondary problem, right? That comes along with some of the property. And what we're seeing on our end is it's actually becoming a larger and larger problem. And when I've spoken to a few chief claims officers and even risk officers who have initially said, I'm not focused on contents. It's not a big enough problem for me today. They've gone back and look at the data and say, actually, you know what? You're onto something, because it looks like a majority of our policyholders that churn after a personal property claim.
Contents loss, right? Sure.
Right?
Sure, absolutely. Because that's so much more personal.
That's exactly right. You think about it from this perspective, like if you have, and this is really interesting. Personal property is one of those lines of coverage that comes with another line of coverage, right? So you usually get personal property if you're a homeowner because you bought a house, right? And it just comes default with your coverage. So that means that if someone just happens to file a theft claim for contents, and if that goes wrong, you lose your property business along with that.
That's so true.
So there's this relationship between contents and other lines of business that doesn't exist really in maybe in autos for sure as well, right? And especially as you kind of bundle things. But usually you only get contents as a homeowner because you have to get a homeowner's policy. Renters get renter's insurance because they either want to, they self-select for it, or because landlords require it. It's one of those things where on contents, you want to get that claim right. And it has larger implications across your value chain. And one other thing I'll say there is when you work with contents, when you work in contents claims as an adjuster, it's one of the only claim situations where you're working directly with the policyholder to resolve that claim, right? So like if you're working a property damage claim for windstorm and hail, chances are the adjuster might be working with the contractor at some point, right? To negotiate on pricing, on number of squares, etc. Same thing with autos. As an adjuster, you might be negotiating with an attorney on like a BI settlement, but on personal property, it's just the adjuster and the policyholder, and you're working with them. So you have direct line of communication with the person who pays the premium.
Yeah.
Well, listen, what a fascinating problem and a hard problem. And all I know is that way harder than what I would want to have to deal with. Wow. I'm glad that you're inspired to do this, and we hope the best. Please stay in touch. Keep listening to our podcast.
Yeah, thank you for being a listener.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be proud of the few, as we talked about earlier, as the podcast listener. But in all seriousness, this has been a pleasure. And Lee, Rob, always happy to continue the conversations even after this podcast. We'll love to continue to connect.
Sounds great.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on, Michael.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michael.
Sure thing.
You know, there are certain parts of the claims world that I have always kind of struggled to understand because they're so
niche.
And contents is at the top of that list, right?
Contents is hard, man. Contents is hard. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of little things, and it takes a lot of time. And no normal property adjuster is like, let me get into the contents. Like it's hard. So people like Michael coming on, making it easier on the homeowner, easier on the adjuster. I think that's a great thing.
Well, when you think about it, like most people who are even listening to this, if God forbid there was a catastrophe in their home, what do you have? Right? I mean, how can you prove? It's just hard.
You want me to tell you what I do every year? This is so I
Here's
was an
the
adjuster.
Lead method, everybody. Pay
I
close
was an
attention because
adjuster.
it will be an Eagle Scout version. Ready? Go.
I was an adjuster for many years. I did total fire losses. And you would show up to people's houses and they were like, I don't know what I had. So every year, whenever I decorate for Christmas, I go throughout my entire house and I video every room, closet, everything. So that at least once a year, I have an inventory, at least a video inventory of what I have. And that way, if I need to know how many shirts or, back in the day, DVDs or whatever. But normally at Christmas time is when I have all my Christmas stuff out, which is most of my net worth. That way I have an inventory every year. So I recommend that to everyone listening. Go do an inventory of your house.
That's a good one. Before anything else, before God forbid you ever have a claim or anything, if you have that video, your life will be 20 times easier.
It'll be so much easier because it's devastating. And then you start thinking, like I'm looking at a closet, and I'm like, I can't even tell you what's in there. Well, I know there's like 20 different Legos put together, but without recently being in there, who knows? So do that, do that. And and then with Michael's technology, things will be so much easier.
That's right. We thank Michael. And most of all, we thank you, our loyal listeners who welcome us into your earbuds on a regular basis. Thanks for doing that. And thanks to our crackerjack production squad of Israel and Aldrin.
Yeah, Israel's here today.
Hey, Israel. And until next time.
Goodbye, everybody.